The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame.
Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show about short video games, games that respect your time. I'm Reagan Kelly, and I am joined this week by my very cool co-host,
Lauren Ash.
And this week we are talking about Bugsnax.
Kind of bug and kind of snacks, as the theme song goes. And I will tell you, if you are coming into this game because you heard the extremely catchy theme song somewhere, it's not going to play till the credits.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that because, okay, so this is the newest game, really only the second game, from the developer Young Horses, which we've covered once before because back probably like the first month or two of the show, years and years ago now, we covered Octodad Dadliest Catch, which was still kind of new at the time. It came out in 2014, and this is the second game from that developer. But if you haven't played Octodad Dadliest Catch, you may not be familiar. Or, I mean, hey, you know, if you don't remember way back to 2014, you may not be familiar with Young Horses. But they're a pretty neat little developer. And I was really excited to play a new game from them. And this one I had a ton of fun with this. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is going to be a wild show. On the tin, Bugsnax is a game about catching bugs that are also food, and then feeding them to various town members, and then their body parts turn into that food. Yes, that is the premise of the game.
Yep. Very, very, very strange premise, which is conveyed pretty well if you watch a trailer or something. But you might look at that and say, "Wow, that's weird. I have a lot of unanswered questions about this." Oh, dear listener, the game initially doesn't like to get into those questions, but then it very much does. That's one of the things I liked very much about this game is it's full of just strangeness that initially seems like it's going to go totally unaddressed, but no, it's addressed, and so that's. Some of that is going to have to go past the spoiler break. There's a lot of fun stuff we could talk about in terms of game mechanics and early game story, but there's also, I think, going to be a lot for us to talk about past the spoiler break if you want to stick around for that. Before we get into talking too much about how Bugsnax work, just to recap a little bit, if you didn't play Octodad Dadliest Catch, I think there's something sort of interesting about how Young Horses, the developer, came together and then transitioned from Octodad to this. So Octodad was a game that there were a bunch of students who got together at DePaul University to create a video game as part of some sort of game design program there. And it got a little bit of notoriety, and they took it to GDC, and it got more notoriety there. And they ended up forming most of the team that built the game at university ended up forming this developer and kind of going into business together. So after they, formed their company, they developed their student game into a more full-fledged game that came out in 2014 for computers. And then a little later that year, it came out for PlayStation 4, and then the next year for PlayStation Vita, and then the next year after that for Xbox One and Wii U. And then later on down the road, it came out for iOS, et cetera, et cetera. In 2017, it came out for Nintendo Switch. Basically, it's a game that's been ported to everything. And apparently, it's been a big success on all of those platforms. And because it's been sort of a consistent thing, they've been able to continue to port to new platforms every couple of years and get a little new income stream. For a small developer like this, they've been able to spend a really long time, relatively speaking, sort of getting their next game figured out and ready and fully baked before moving on to the next thing. So, 2014 to now, that's a long time between games, even for, even for like a AAA or something, that would be a long time. But for indies who tend to have to sort of move at a little faster pace, that's a really, really long time. But they've apparently been able to do that because of the pretty big success that Octodad was.
Yeah, and I think that you can see the amount of time and thought in this game. So this game is 10 to 12 hours. It's a little on the long side for the short game. But something that is very apparent is there are a ton of ideas in this game. I think they took all of those 6 years of ideas. 6? Yes, that's how math works. And really applied them. I'm trying not to spoil the plot, but basically the idea of this game is you're a journalist who finds out that Lizbert, this adventurer, has got a gang of folks to come to Snacktooth Island with her, and you are going to find out what Bugsnax are, what this whole thing is she's been doing. And of course your boss is like, don't do it. And you're like, I'm gonna do it. And you run out, get on a hot air balloon, crash land on Snacktooth Island. And you find out when you get there that Lizbert is gone, that everybody in the town has gone their separate ways. She disappeared. There was an earthquake. No one knows what happened. And your job is basically to talk to the inhabitants, get them to come back, solve their problems, which vary wildly. And while you're at it, catch a bunch of Bugsnax. Those little, it's a little bit like Pokemon if then you fed the Pokemon to people who turn their limbs into strawberries.
It's super, super strange. A few things about this I think really, really work in terms of just, like, you know, we'll get into the story, which is a surprisingly large part of this game. The characters are really more fleshed out than you would expect in a game about trapping, melon balls. But this is, in terms of just how this game plays, you've got it's got a pretty traditional structure in terms of, like, you've got a journal with like missions, and there's sort of like quest trees. Each of the characters that it was originally part of the expedition, the sort of exploring party that came to this island, and has ended up sort of scattered across the island. Each of them has their own little quest line. And most of the time, they are asking you to catch Bugsnax and feed it to them in various configurations. Either they need it because they're hungry, or they're trying some sort of science experiment, or they're wanting to look a particular way and want to add to their look by changing into a Bugsnax.
Their life by eating something.
Yeah, and so the actual gameplay though is mostly around the catching of the Bugsnax, and it's really varied. Laura mentioned that it's sort of like Pokemon, and yes, in that you're catching animals that have their own sort of unique look and actually do the whole saying their name as their call kind of thing, which is clearly like a Pokemon inspired thing, but really is funny and cute here. But the actual catching is more puzzle gamey. So
yes,
every Bugsnak has particular behavior, and it's mostly about photographing and observing the Bugsnax to get a sense of what their behavior is, and then figuring out how to catch them. And it sort of escalates in complexity. So like you start with very simple things, like the sort of, I guess like Pikachu of this game is the Strabi, which is one of the most... Strabi. They're very cute. It's a little strawberry turned upside down, crawling around with its leaves as its legs, with giant googly eyes. They all have giant googly eyes. And the Strabi is really easy to catch because basically if it sees you, it'll run away, but it walks around in a preset pattern, and it waits, and it will walk around until you try to catch it. You have a variety of different trap items that you collect throughout the game, but you start with a very basic one, which is just sort of like a net that you can remotely trigger. So you set it down, wait for the Strabi to walk through its path, and trigger the net, and it catches the Strabi. Very, very simple. But this slowly escalates in difficulty. So eventually you're catching more and more complex Bugsnax with more and more complex behavior, and you have to exploit their likes, dislikes, and other behaviors in order to put them in a situation where you can trap them. Do you have any examples?
Sure. So an example of how something can escalate is they often have different breeds of Bugsnax that are the same color or same type. And for example, early in the game, you're in this garden and you get a bunger, which is basically a burger that's like a stink bug, and it's got these fry tusks, and it will launch you into the air as it goes bunger, 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 bunger. And
I love the voices in this so much.
so the bunger you can catch in a couple ways. It likes ketchup, so you shoot ketchup, and then it will follow the ketchup, and you can use this to run it into other bugs, and then it knocks on its back, and you can pick it up. Then later on in the game, you get the barbecue bunger, the more aggressive version, and you have to be more wily. You have to shoot the ranch dressing in a special spot and then use a tripwire to knock it over. And you can see that these combinations scale. Like, I had a really nice moment at one point. You have a wheel where all your tools are on this wheel. And once I had it filled out, I had maybe caught half, like 40% to half of the Bugsnax, and I had my wheel complete. So then I knew it was all just going to be puzzle solving. I had the full toolkit. Nothing else was going to change. I had the tutorial done, but it's really interesting how complex it gets. You have to use the environment. You have to use other Bugsnax around it. There's a lot of interesting puzzle mechanics to catch the Bugsnax, which is probably why I finished all the side quests in this game, a thing I never do.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of that is the using the interactions between the Bugsnax to catch them. So like a quick example of that is that there's a lot of Bugsnax in this that are literally on fire. So like spicy taco based Bugsnax and things like that will be on fire, and you can't touch them with your hands. And if you try to trap them in various traps, it will light the trap on fire and it decomposes or whatever. So you have to usually either put them out in water or freeze them in order to trap them. And so you might have an area where there's like, maybe there's water around, you can try and flip them into the water, but that might not always be possible. There might be other ways to put them out using the behaviors of other nearby Bugsnax. Or, maybe you want to get an ice Bugsnak to attack the fiery Bugsnak to freeze it and extinguish it, that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed every time it sort of clicked to be able to figure out to do one of those. And the more Bugsnax that were involved in these, the more sort of chaos there was, which was really entertaining, like to see these things sort of attacking each other, flipping each other over, that sort of thing.
Oh, and the animations when you freeze or catch on fire are funny every time. There's a beach location that's towards the end of the game where there is both lava and ice, and the amount of times that I would be caught on fire and then get headbutted by a popsicle, and I just went from being on fire to being frozen to being on fire, and it was very funny every time. I will say that all of this is delightful and very silly and very family friendly. And then there are some serious mental health issues on this island that we need to discuss.
Yeah. We should talk about the characters a little bit to kind of get into that. I guess actually before we do that, the thing that stuck out to me first, as far as like this game being like cutesy, but with sort of a slight layer of darkness underneath, is just sort of the question of like, why are these characters so happy about their body parts turning into snack foods?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like the very first thing that you do in this game, you crash land on the island, and the first character you meet is Filbo. Filbo is a blue grumpus. By the way, these creatures, these non-human main characters, this world seems to be populated primarily by grumpuses, who are these sort of like vaguely tube-shaped Muppet-like people. They're weird-looking dudes.
They're like, it's like a taller Super Meat Boy shape Yeti thing, but then covered in Muppet fur. And they all have puppets. So my favorite thing about the grumpuses is that when they talk, the top of their head lifts up rather than their jaw dropping down.
Yes. Oh my God. They're very much like, they're like a Muppet that somebody made at like 4:45 on a Friday afternoon in the Muppet Workshop, right? They're like the laziest Muppet you've ever seen. And the other thing that's kind of disconcerting about them is like with Muppet type characters, you usually don't see them from the waist down because, hands are in there. But these guys have legs and exposed crotch areas that are completely Ken doll. And of course, I mean, it would be really gross if they had genitals. Let's not even think about that. Why did I go?
No,
anyway.
I was shocked. I did not think about that being the weird thing. To me, the weird thing is the fact that
they're not wearing pants is the thing.
But they're also you are going around body modifying all of these beasts, and then the rest of the game they're just going to have chip feet.
Yeah. So I got into this by talking about Filbo and our first interaction with Filbo. Filbo has gone out looking for Elizabeth, but he hasn't found her, and he's gotten hungry during his hunt for her, and he's kind of collapsed out of hunger.
You later find out that he ate an azalea and threw up.
Yeah, poor guy. He's just such a weirdo. But he's there like collapsed, and you have to feed him. And so your first task in the game is to catch a Strabby and feed it to him. And when you do that, I think it's one of his legs, I forget, turns into a Strabby, or not into a Strabby, but just into a strawberry, right? 3
strawberries stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Becomes the bottom half of his leg.
Yeah. And so that's a thing that happens when you feed, Bugsnax to the Grumpuses. There's a sort of an unanswered question of like, it seems like none of them have this like snackification to their limbs, or not many of them have like snackified limbs before, whereas like it's said that they
wore
all
off.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is something I felt like it didn't answer this burning question for me until fairly late in the game. Is that like all of these characters, you feed them these foods, and their limbs and other body parts like noses and hair turn into these snacks in ways that are, kind of cute, but also kind of body horror and disgusting. And my thought was like, is this permanent? Oh my God, what happens when the strawberries go bad? Like, this is going to be really a bad scene. Like, ugh.
What happens when the food rots? To me, it was more like, can you still perform the same tasks when your hand is a chocolate bar?
Right.
Like, how are you getting anything done?
They have no problem, by the way. No problems whatsoever.
Game, whatever you do to these people, these Grumpuses, they will continue to have those modifications every time you see them.
Yeah,
it's
so
remarkably consistent.
It does. I hope this isn't a spoiler. It does, like Laura mentioned earlier, eventually say that this snackification wears off, but like there's no indication of that during the game until very near the end, and I was left through this entire game sort of having this like horrifying feeling of like, like these people are going to be stuck like this, like,
Yeah, and the only reason I figured out they had worn off is because everyone was like, we're hungry, she's been gone a long time, and Lizbert feeds us. And so I was like, oh, okay, so that's been just a really long time since they've had a Bugsnak.
Yeah, they just can't catch them themselves, I guess, yeah.
A journalist who definitely is going to get everybody their fix.
Yeah, thank goodness. So yeah, let's talk about the characters, because like, Filbo, the first one that you meet, he's like a lovable goof type character, and he's wearing a dingy like mayor sash because he so badly wants to be everyone's friend and be the mayor of Snacksburg.
And so this was my first hint that there was going to be some tonal shifts in this game, is that Filbo in 99% of games, especially ones that look this cute and colorful, Filbo would be like, I've got a little self-doubt, but you're here, so it's okay. And this Filbo is like, oh, I'm a total loser and everyone hates me, but you're here, so I guess they'll like you instead. Like, the distinction between those two things is subtle. Well, that is the first sign that you're on a ride. And I will say that, especially kids who can't read, this 90% of this game will be like totally fine to play with kids, in front of kids.
Yeah, and we can talk about that too, because I played this with my kid and she loved it. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
But there are going to be like realistic fights between people that are serious. I'm not saying violence. It's not like two Grumpuses are gonna shove each other. There's no like axe murdering in this game, but they will have really real issues about like, you're away, and that's why we might be getting a divorce.
Yeah. Small example of that. Like, there's several points throughout this game where the overall arc of this game is you're getting the gang back together. This adventuring party that came to this island was a bunch of colorful, cartoony characters that all sort of have their own thing, but they were all brought together by Elizabeth, the sort of, I kind of thought of her as like a Steve Irwin type of character.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
But she's this like very charismatic person who got them all together to go to Snacktooth Island. And as soon as she's gone, they devolve into into fighting. And it's clear there was a huge fight that you hear a lot about. In fact, a lot of you interview all the characters, and a lot of that is sort of like reconstructing like why did they all fight and end up like literally leaving town to go live in the wilderness rather than be around each other. So all these characters came together and they had this massive, massive fight. And a big part of the game is getting them all back together in town. And as you do that, every few times you bring a new character back to town, Philbo will suggest having a party because he just really desperately wants everybody to get along and he wants everybody to have a party together, guys. He just
loves parties.
He just loves parties. And they, at least short until the end of the game, all of those parties end up devolving into sort of backbiting, name calling, just bringing up old wounds. So like, for example, like I forget even which character this was, but like, I just remember being really surprised seeing these like colorful Muppet-like characters. One of them saying, "This is why your wife left you," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
That's the line that got me and was like, we're playing serious. Like everybody looks like Muppets and all the little bugs are cute, but like people have some real issues and people could use a counselor. But not only is their like leader gone, but their doctor is gone and she has clinical depression. So
this is something that I think that Young Horses, I mean, we're working off of a sample size of 2, but like this is something I think Young Horses really brings to their games is that they have these bizarre over the top characters who are like living in this totally surreal world. Like I look back at Octodad and the premise of that game, if you haven't played it, is that there's this very sort of cute cartoon family, mom, dad, 2 kids. But the dad is secretly an octopus, and secretly in that like no one notices that he is an octopus. He's obviously an octopus in a business suit, right?
But it keeps it together.
Right. But what I thought was really, one of the things that I really loved about that game was that like, yes, it's this sort of like, quap-like, anti-platformer where you're just sort of flopping all over the place, fighting with the controls in very funny ways. But it has a story, and mostly its story is about a family like learning to trust each other and love each other, and there's this like real emotional heart to that game. The characters they are these incredibly broad cartoons that have that just a little bit enough of like actual heart to them to make you care about them. I kind of think of this as sort of like the sort of modern Cartoon Network-y kind of storytelling where like a lot of modern children's programming is, trying to have that little bit of darkness and that little bit of heart that will kind of elevate it over just being a thing for babies, right? And, I think about things like Over the Garden Wall or Steven Universe as these things that there's more going on there than, meets the eye initially. And mostly what's below the surface is heart and a willingness to like let the characters be in pain a little bit and have more depth to them than you might think from a cartoon. And this has that, these games.
And I respect that this game also says these are serious problems, and most of them are interpersonal problems, or some of them are self problems, personal problems, intrapersonal, not sure the exact word. But a lot of the problems are things that people can only deal with by time or recognizing the problem within themselves or realizing that it's not actually a problem and they need to get over it. And the game doesn't shy away from that or the people saying like, or trying to solve things that seem very purposeless. I'm not articulating it very well, but it's a very distinct change from a lot of video games where it's like, I have this problem and it will be solved if I fall in love. Play or make me fall in love. You are doing tasks and you are pretty sure they're not going to make the person any better, but you're going to do the task and try to hope it will make them realize they need to change in the future.
Yeah, if anything, all you're really doing is like bringing these people who've had a really big fight back into the same room so they can try and hash it out, you know? And that's really what the overall kind of arc of the game is until you get to the ending, which we'll talk about, which is a bit of a swerve, as you may have heard.
Yeah, and I will say it's a big change because you can kind of choose your own adventure. You can run around accomplishing all the side quests, which are really lighthearted puzzles with the Bugsnax. And then if you want, when you come and finish the quest, you get a little bit of the story drop. Maybe a positive outcome, maybe a negative one. You don't know until you go back.
So let's talk about some of the characters, because I really, really enjoyed most of them. And I want to call out my favorite character in this game, Bethica Wigglesnoot.
Oh, of course she's your favorite.
I loved her. She's ridiculous. She's this like, I don't know, sort of like, how would you describe her voice? Sort of like a California girl.
Bethica is a millennial influencer.
Yes.
And she's a writer for GMZ, Grumpus Media something. I don't know what TMZ stands for. But Bethica calls you bestie. And she's extremely mean, and she really likes gossip.
Yes, loved her, and she was very funny. But all of the characters are pretty great. What was your favorite?
Oh, I love Chandlo.
Oh, Chandlo!
I love nothing more than a himbo, and Chandlo is the gentlest lift bro. Who all he loves is his conspiracy theorist bro Snorpy, and he loves lifting, and he loves being swole. And Chandlo has the purest heart. I just loved Chandlo so much.
I also loved Chandlo, and I loved his relationship with Snorpy. I thought Snorpy was a really odd character. Snorpy is this, like, it's maybe this is just 2021 talking, but it's really weird to see such a compassionate portrayal of a paranoid conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theories are kind of a red flag for me, frankly, even if they're cutesy, silly ones.
I'll say that yes.
Yeah, that one didn't really land for me so much. But like his relationship with Chandlo, at least I was pulling for Chandlo.
I was pulling for their relationship. It seems like Snorpy is much more of the off the grid type of conspiracy theorist, so I was pretty sure he's not at QAnon. That's all that mattered.
Whatever the grump equivalent of QAnon would be. My God.
I did not really enjoy Shelda, the wellness guru.
No, didn't love her. She was a little annoying.
But I did love Triffany, the paleontologist.
Oh my God, I loved Triffany. And her husband, Wambus. So Wambus Troubleham is a sort of slow-talking farmer who just wants to till the earth. And his wife, Triffany Laudablog, which I love all of the names in this, but Laudablog might be my favorite. And not that she's a blogger. I don't know why her name is Laudablog, but anyway, she's an archaeologist who's trying to uncover the history of Snacktooth Island and the Bugsnax. And their relationship is on the rocks when you arrive, and seeing them come back together is cute.
They're both a little bit of a workaholic, and you need to show them that, like, it doesn't matter as long as we still are together at the end of the day. It's very nice.
The other character that you don't really get to meet throughout most of the game, except through, like, video diaries, but I still really liked a lot, or both of them, was Elizabeth Megafig, the person who organized the expedition, and her partner, Eggabell Batternugget. And
Batternugget, yes. How could you possibly mispronounce Eggabell Batternugget?
I loved them both. They're very sweet with each other, and you see their relationship mostly through these sort of video diaries that you find throughout most of the game. Elizabeth is this sort of rough and tumble adventurer type who brought everybody together to check out this island. But she sort of feels responsible for everyone. She's trying to hold everyone together. And Eggabell is this sort of meek doctor character who seems like she doesn't feel like she measures up to her much more daring and interesting partner, Elizabeth. And seeing their relationship and how Eggabell changes throughout the game, she has more of an arc than anybody, is kind of my favorite character part of the game.
I will reserve my theory of what I thought was happening till after the spoiler break, because I believe that theories that you say are not true are spoilers in a way. But I will say that the hinting and foreshadowing in this game that something is, you have a lot of hints about individuals, you have a lot of hints about the story arc, but the game does telegraph that like something bigger is happening on this island. And Eggabell and Lizbert's story is the main scoop you're trying to get. And I will say that it's both a character scoop, a character arc, and a like big mystery. They pair that really well. Often games only have plot or have characters, and this one has both paired in their main quest line.
Yeah, and actually, just speaking about a small detail of that, when you open your journal that has the quest log in it, you from the beginning of the game, you have a quest that's like find Elizabeth and interview her, right? And that's why you came to Snacktooth Island, is to interview her about this expedition and about Bugsnax. And that is sort of like this is a small thing, but like when you have these games that are driven by these like multiple quest lines, I always really appreciate it when they have like the top of the list big quest that is the game, right? Like this is what you're trying to do as a whole for the entire game. And for this one, it's like, get everybody back together and find Elizabeth. And it's like, okay, you've done 6 out of 12 of those in order to make progress on that. It's like, it does give you a sense of like, okay, how much progress have I made across the entirety of this game's story? And you always kind of have a feeling for like what to do next, because this game has a pretty good quest log and pretty good tracker.
Yeah, and you can pin anything to the kind of heads up display, which I also found there's a lot of nice little quality of life bits. The quest log was a very big part of that.
Yeah, and the Snackopedia that gives you like a record of every Bugsnak you've ever photographed, and gives you information about them that you might need to know, like what sauces they like and what other Bugsnax they either like or dislike, and some details about their behavior, like if they're aggressive, for example. So lots of useful information that gets automatically cataloged for you and helps make the game really feel sort of breezy, even though there's kind of a lot to do.
Before we get into spoiler territory, I think that this game shines in the little details. Like there were so many little moments where you look around and something is funny, or like a bug behaves in a certain way. I'm curious if you had any that stood out to you. One is kind of a meta one. You're at a failed party and Philbo is like, well, come on, don't you want to try a Bugsnak? Like everyone loves them. Like, come on, aren't you curious? And you try it and you immediately have to go lay down because you're allergic. Like the fact that the game makes you allergic to Bugsnax is one of the funniest things in it. It's about an hour or two in. I don't think it's a spoiler. I think it's just a charming decision.
I think most of my favorite moments in the game, apart from just like good character beats, were like the really incredibly varied and almost always surprising Bugsnak designs they kept coming up with. And the one that like literally made me laugh out loud was that there's an area in the game where there's a bush that's just sort of shaking and nothing happens. Usually if you wait and watch, a Bugsnak will come out of the bushes if it's shaking. But in this case, it wasn't. And so I pulled out my camera, and out of the bush comes a sort of glam cupcake attached to an ant. You know, the sorts of things where it's like, like a multicolored cupcake that clearly
like the $5 cupcake.
Yeah, not designed to taste good, right? It's designed to look good. And this was called Instabug.
So funny.
Because of course Instagram, and it's the only bug in the game that even notices when you get your camera out. So its behavior is that it likes cameras. It's the only bug in the game that even notices that you have your camera, but like it plays with that when you I thought that was incredibly
the Instabug
funny.
Won't come out unless you are shooting
unless you're taking photos of it. I loved that. It was so funny. So like there's so many Bugsnax, in every single one of them is like a clever little joke in and of itself, and sometimes they have behaviors that are another layer of the joke. And I just thought they were so creative and so funny. And there were little things about that too that like about the design. Like, obviously the Bugsnax, like one of the key visual designs is like it's a piece of food with googly eyes on it, which is literally never not funny. But like there would be moments in this game where you'd find like a lab where somebody had been experimenting on Bugsnax, and there's a box full of eyes, full of the googly eyes. I was like, oh my God.
You can also look, speaking of experiments, there's a part where you see a bunch of jars and they've got Bugsnax with no eyes, which are just what we know is fruit, but they look so terrifying because we know they're supposed to have eyes.
It's so bizarre. There's just so much like there was so much care put into the like little moments with the Bugsnax and between the characters and just the overall design. It's just so funny constantly.
You're at a party and the juice is just the pickle jar one with pickles floating in it upside down. As if you're just draining the juice out of the pickle bug.
Which is gross jar. If you think about it. That thing's alive.
It's just pickle water. Yeah. But I also, there's a part where there's ghost stories being told around the campfire. And if you turn around, you can actually see things running around in the background. Like just little things like that make me feel like this game had a lot of care, had a lot of thought. And just makes it so much funnier.
Also, all of the Bugsnax have great names. Like they really put a lot of the times they're trying to like combine the name of the food and the name of a bug or animal to like create a kind of a fun portmanteau. And some of the best ones are like that, but other times they just have sort of like a cute name. But like some of these names were just amazing. Like I think my favorite was the Pinantula, a pineapple that is also a tarantula. But I also really, really liked the praying picantis. It was a praying mantis that is made out of tacos. Can you think of any others that you liked? Like what are the really good names?
So I was very the paletas I thought was a very funny because paleta is it's the Mexican popsicles are paletas.
Oh, and I forgot about that one.
Popsicles that stick together and are covered in like orange dust, like the spicy things. And it's the paletas because it will take the stick and it will knock you into the air. So I thought that was a very good pun. And the paletas grande. The other one that I liked a lot was the flapjackerack. It just sounded cool.
And the variations were sometimes, there's sometimes some pretty basic like color swap variations, but sometimes they were really cleverly done. My favorite of that, so like sometimes that'd be things like, like there's a bug that's like a bunch of citrus fruit cut into little, wedges, and it's like, well, there's one that's an orange and there's one that's a lime, that kind of thing. But there's one that I really liked called the weenie worm, which is just a hot dog that inchworms around. And later in the game, you find the shy weenie worm, which is a Chicago-style hot dog.
Made me so well. I think they're a Chicago team, so I love that they made a Chicago hot dog.
I loved it, and they're and the behavior was very funny too, because like the main Bugsnak, the main weenie worm loves ketchup, but the shy weenie worm hates ketchup, and you have to figure that out to trap it. I loved that so much.
Yeah, that the shy weenie worm, the Chicago hot dog, will run away from ketchup. It's so good. Honestly, though, gotta say my favorite is the snackery. It's just a daiquiri.
I loved that too. It's like
it's barely even a bug.
It reminded me so much. So as I'm a huge, big baseball fan, and the snackery reminded me so much of my Hawaii Fridays. Have a player called Juice Collins. And Juice Collins, according to the lore of the Hawaii Fridays, is a sentient tiki beverage.
Can't wait for baseball to come back.
Me too.
So I think that's all I wanted to say before the spoiler break. This is going to be a very interesting spoiler discussion, but I will say that if you have heard that I will say the ending is dark. I would not play the ending around kids. And I will say that if you are really enjoying the hang out on the island and catch animals or catch bugs, and if that's what tone you want, you don't have to do the ending. I will say it is a big tonal shift, and there is a clear point of no return. So you don't have to worry about once you pass a point, they will tell you that's the point of no return. So you are totally fine to keep hanging out and doing whatever you want up until that point. I will just say that, like, you might have heard that this game does have a stark contrast in the ending. It does. It doesn't have rape or murder in it. It's not like that kind of a
Yeah,
game.
it's not that. I'd say like I was saying earlier, I think this is sort of like Cartoon Network dark. So without spoiling anything up top, I'll say that like I was expecting something. First of all, I'd seen some of the articles that said things like Bugsnax ending is some wild shit, and this is like the headline of an article about the game, right? So it's not a huge secret that the ending feels like a little bit of a swerve, but it's also not
incredibly heavily foreshadowed.
Right, it's very foreshadowed. Like I one of the things that I really liked about the ending, and before we get into talking about the details of it, but like, is that it this game early on feels like it's raising a lot of questions, like that what I said earlier about like, oh my god, like what's the deal with this, like people's limbs turning into snack foods, and why are they okay with this? It seems really body horror-ish, and like just the sort of weirdness of the even within a world populated by like basically Muppet characters, there's some weird stuff happening on this island.
All these ruins, like weird archaeological paintings.
And on some level, with the level of just sort of like goofiness of this game, you kind of think like, well, this is just the uncommented upon weirdness of the game, right? Like this is just how it is. But like some of those questions that have been being raised for you throughout the entire game pay off in interesting ways. And it does feel like it's pretty heavily foreshadowed, but it's also just sort of like it's more payoff than I was expecting. So I give it props for that. So yes, it's a little bit of a swerve in terms of tone. And when people say it's dark, it's dark-ish. I think, my kid, so I played this with my 2-year-old in my lap for a significant chunk of it. She was kind of bored by really all of the dialogue, but she's 2. But she was very, very entertained by the catching of the Strabbies, for example. Like
the sounds those bugs make are fantastic.
Yeah, she loved it. But I don't think she would have appreciated or enjoyed the ending, and may have been scared by it. There's definitely some moments in it that are like, meant to sort of be like cutesy, snackified echoes of horror movie-esque kind of stuff, monstery stuff.
And I believe that any critic who said that it was a complete swerve wasn't reading the dialogue.
Possibly, yeah, because there's that darkness from the very beginning in the characters' dialogue, or in it's not out in the open exactly.
So one tip I want to give before we do spoiler break, and that is if you want to get the really fun endings to some people's side quests, there are a lot of side quests in the game, and I just want to give a quick hint. If you really want to like do the most fun ones, make sure you do Cromdo, Snorpty, Wiggle, and Chandlo to the end.
Wow, okay.
I finished all, and I think all of them are like fun to different extents, but those have really fun endings that I'm going to talk about in the spoiler break. So write those down if you want to have the most like epic of those quests. Those 4 will get you the really fun payoffs.
Yeah, and I actually didn't play very many of the side quests. So just for some contrast, like Laura, I think spent over 10 hours with the game, whereas I spent just barely over 6. So I didn't actually hit most of the side quest content, and it is totally optional. There's like the main quest, and you can get through it and get to the big ending. And if you want, then you can kind of reset back to the save that it makes just before that big ending and do that side quest stuff. So, keep in mind, if you're playing to just sort of get through it quickly, like I kind of was, about 6 hours. If you're doing everything, probably 10 to 12.
Yeah, and I will say that I believe that side quests are also insurance against some of the alternate endings. I'll leave it there. But if you are really interested in not having any possibility of alternate endings, you have to do the side quests. I didn't know that, and the game doesn't tell you that. Just want to lay that out there if that's something you definitely want to avoid.
Yeah, I'm really curious. So I haven't done a lot of research about like the possible endings yet. So I'm curious to hear from Laura like what that means. So looking forward to our spoiler break. Before we do the spoiler break, standard outro stuff here. If you're sticking with us and want to hear that spoiler break content, thank you for joining us. And if you're dropping here, also thank you for joining us on this episode of The Short Game. Go play the game and come back and listen to the spoiler stuff later if you want. I'm Reagan Kelly. You can find me on the internet at Reagan K on Twitter. And you can find our show on the web at www.theshortgame.net, where you'll find our contact form to get in touch with us or let us know games that you think we ought to be playing. Of course, we're also on Patreon, patreon.com/theshortgame. And that is also the best way to get in touch with us because every one of our patrons, whether you're at $1 a month or up, gets instant access to our Discord, which is where we talk about the show, talk about other stuff that's making us happy. We plan things. We hang out there. It's a good place to be on the web. So if you want to join us there, $1 a month on the Discord gets you in instantly. And
it's a very happy community. Everyone's great.
Yes, very much appreciate it. And of course, you can find us our show on Twitter at _shortgame. And Laura, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Laura J. Nash.
And here it is, your spoiler break. Ooh boy. Okay. So I want to hear more from you about the side quests before we get into the endings, because I didn't really do much of those at all. So tell me more about them.
Yeah. So real quick to lay the groundwork, the side quests are all in the journal. There's one kind of layered side quest per character. Some of them that you meet later have shorter ones than some at the beginning, but basically everyone has a series of tasks. Did you complete any of them, or did you just like play as you liked?
So I kind of just played as I liked. I think I completed one of them, but I don't remember which, so I might not even have completed any of them. I pretty much was like beelining for the ending because I wanted to make sure I'd heard the ending was interesting, and I wanted to make sure I had, played the ending before we got to the episode. So no, I can't guarantee you that I finished any of them.
Yeah. So all of them have, some of them just kind of are Phoebe these Bugsnax, and then like I have a character realization about like how I need to change my life, or maybe I don't. But the four I mentioned, Cromdo, Snorpty, Wiggle, and Chandlo, all end in really good boss fights.
Awesome. I don't think I played any of these boss fights, so please give me some info, and I want to go back and play these.
So if you finish Wiggle, that was the first one I did, you go fight the Mega Maki on the Boiling Bay, and the Mega Maki is a flying sushi dragon roll that flies around and will shoot row at you, and you have to use your a tripwire to knock it down in the air, and when it breaks into bits, it's kind of like the sandwich guy, and that you have to go get all the Mega Maki, and it will continue reforming until you collect all of the little sushi pieces from around the bay.
That's awesome.
Chandlo, you go into the Flavor Falls, and you go to that room behind the waterfall, and it turns out there's a giant mama watermelon in it. And I will say one really good thing is if you accidentally clip into the mama watermelon, you get inside of her is red with seeds. So like
that's
accidentally
awesome.
Clipping near her is a really nice payoff. The mama watermelon has little baby watermelon seeds, little watermelon balls, and you have to, when you trap them, she will run and you have to drop stuff on her. So like that's super fun. Chandlo is going there because he wants to eat big bugs to feel buff. So good on you, Chandlo. I fed you a watermelon. I'll say, though, my favorite was Cromdo, because there's this area that's the sands and the beach, and it's like ancient Egypt themed. And there's all these or Mesopotamia, and there's all these ancient temples. And you go up to the top, there's like a sarcophagi you can't open, and you go to the top, and there's this pizza thing, and you don't know what to do with it. The end of all people, Cromdo's thing is you summon the pizza, that pizza moth that's been running around.
Oh.
The Mothra Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out how to summon it and get the ancient sculptures to become pizza cutters, and like you get these little pizza pocket bombs, and there's a sarcophagi. It is extremely complex and just awesome. But my favorite is when Cromdo, Snorpty, Snorpty the conspiracy theorist, leads you up and you have a birthday cake fight.
Ooh.
Where you're lighting birthday cake candles on this daddy long legs on fire. And when you light all the birthday cake candles, the cake explodes into pieces of cake.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. All of the boss fights are incredibly satisfying. And there's no cluing which ones are which is why before the spoiler break, I wanted to say those 4. I mean, the other ones all have like character story payoffs. You get to find out what happened, you do more research on what happened to Triffany's grandma. You go investigate for Biffica. You find out what everybody does after midnight, and everyone has funny secrets. like Bifficas are always spy on someone at midnight, or feed me snack bags. But I was just really excited that the first one I did was Wiggle, and I had no idea. Triffany's are all, here's an ancient place with ruins, go find me this Easter egg, and also feed me a bug.
Yeah, I did like the first step or two of almost all of them, but I don't think I played any of their quest lines all the way to the end. So that's something for me to go back and do.
They're not that long.
Yeah.
So I think they're all like 4 or 5 steps, and it's very easy to do 1, 2, or 3. But at some point I just was like, how long are these? I looked at the list of all of them. It's like, oh, these are, I'm not too far off the end of these. So I figured I got some free time this week. Let's go.
Yeah. Awesome. Speaking of, we didn't mention this at the top or at any point during the episode. So I'm sorry, this is in the spoiler break. It might have belonged better earlier, but this is out on the Epic Games Store for PC and Mac, I think, and also on PlayStation 4 and 5. And part of the reason that we didn't play this when it first came out was that I thought it was a PlayStation 5 exclusive.
Me too.
Which it isn't. It's out on PS4 as well, and I found out at some point that it was on PC, but I thought it was. I still thought it was just on PlayStation 5. I didn't know there had also been a PS4 version. I think because it was a PlayStation 5 launch game, they marketed pretty heavily, like, "Hey, play this on PlayStation 5, and it's free for PlayStation Plus subscribers on PlayStation 5," or was. And so they were pushing that so hard, like, hey, play this on PlayStation 5, that I kind of assumed it was just PlayStation 5. And then when I finally booted this up, I was like, I was kind of expecting like fur physics or something.
I was like, none of us can play this, so I guess I won't push it.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So.
Endings.
Endings. The other thing I wanted to mention that I teed up was, so there's this moment at the Ghost Stories where they're like, someone comes to town and writes no more Bugsnax and stuff. And I was convinced at that point that Eggabell had been eating so many Bugsnax in her depression trying to get cool that she had turned into a monster. I was convinced Eggabell was a monster who had turned horrible because she ate too many Bugsnax and maybe turned into a Bugsnak, and now she was terrorizing the town, and Lisbeth had not come back because she was trying to hunt down Eggabell. That was what I was like. And then I show up and I find Eggabell and she's normal. And I was like,
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing now that you mention it. Like, I was pretty sure, because like they show, there's one of those journal entries where she's like, where Lisbeth says to Eggabell that she's eating too many Bugsnax. And I was like, we're going to find Eggabell and she's going to be like made out of 100% cake or something.
Yeah. She's been working with Floofty, the horrible mad scientist, and has like she has 2 cinnamon buns, like Princess Leia on the side of her head. She has so many different Bugsnax on her. And I was like, something happened. She pushed over the edge. That's when the earthquake happened. And it's because she transformed into a Bugsnax monster. And if everyone keeps eating Bugsnax, they will too turn into Bugsnax monsters. And that was my bet. Turns out I was 60% right.
It got a little weirder than that, actually.
Yeah. I was more normal.
I want to know, so maybe maybe I can share the ending that I got with you, and then you can tell me
Yes.
where yours diverged, because you did other stuff.
Yeah.
So you get to, obviously you find, once you finally get up to the peak, you find Eggabell. She's been up there trying to get into the sort of like sealed room at the top of the mountain in order to rescue Elizabeth. And she's been up there so long that she's become more powerful. She's learned to survive in this frozen wilderness up there. And then you finally, after a bunch of ups and downs, you finally get into the final area is that you get into that, I guess, temple or whatever, but you immediately fall through the floor and into the undersnack, the sort of underbelly of the island, where you find Elizabeth. She's been transformed into what's been sort of mentioned previously as the Bugsnak Queen, I think.
She's an amalgam of the 4 bosses, which I didn't know if you could see that.
I didn't. Okay.
If she probably, she might have looked, I assume she looked the same, but
yeah. No, that makes sense based on what you were describing. Yeah, like, so I could see she was all snack, right? But I didn't understand, because I didn't see those bosses that didn't hit for me. But yeah, she's this sort of like, I guess sort of like Queen Alien kind of vibe to her. She's like this massive hulking creature with a long neck that ends in Elizabeth's body, made out of, like, I don't know, sushi rice or something.
Yeah, she's got like sushi dragon roll necks, and then she's got the like Mothra pizza wings, and she's got the legs of the birthday cake, Daddy Long Legs, and then like the body of the watermelon. It's like, it's really weird looking, and also she's in this temple surrounded by like
sort of worshipful Bugsnax. So like, I guess the implication is like she fell down here and fought and ate enough Bugsnax that she became the largest Bugsnak, basically.
It's even weirder. They like forced themselves down.
Oh, right. I forgot she mentioned that. Gross. Yeah.
Which is...
And so I guess the thing that like people were saying is the like big twist here, is that she explains that Bugsnax, that all the Bugsnax on the island are essentially kind of one giant organism, and that it's essentially a parasite that gets into your body and makes you want to eat more Bugsnax. Messes with your mind. Maybe
add self-doubt. Unclear.
Sort of messes with your mind and makes you want to eat more Bugsnax and stay on the island forever. And that also the whole island is essentially kind of made of Bugsnax. When you get down into the basement here, it's like all the walls are made out of nothing but snacks. It's actually really cool looking. But that sort of twists the whole game, where previously it's been, like everybody's just happy-go-lucky eating Bugsnax, and once you escape this underground with what's his name? The main blue guy, Filbo. Once you guys escape and get back to town, it's like, don't eat any more Bugsnax. They're controlling your mind. And now it's about like the Bugsnax are coming for you. They want
to force themselves down your throat.
The Bugsnax want to force themselves down your throat and make you part of them, right? And Elizabeth is like just barely holding them back, but they're breaking free from her control, and they're coming for you. And the final act of the game kind of twists all of the trapping mechanics into combat mechanics. So you are trying to like go through these various different little segments of the game where you are trying to save each of the grumps on the way out. You're trying to defend them from attacking Bugsnax. And you use your various tools in new ways. So, for example, the simple sort of net trap has become kind of like a spinning blades trap that shreds Strabbies instead of trapping them. And you use each of your tools in a new way, in a sort of a more actiony kind of combat kind of context, to prevent like waves of Bugsnax from getting to your friends as you're trying to rescue them on your way out. And I'm pretty sure that the ending changes depending on how many of them you rescue. So for me, one of the grumps died on the way out. It was, what's his name? The salesman guy with the C.
Cromdo?
Cromdo died. And it was actually a kind of I I don't want to say I wish they all had died, but I want to see what their deaths look like, because Cromdo's was very interesting.
I've seen a screenshot of Bifika's, which was horrifying. So what happened to Cromdo?
Well, Cromdo, like, enough Bugsnax forced themselves down his throat while he was standing there helping me defend, I think it was Chandlo that was with him at the time. And he sort of turns around. He's become like completely snackified.
Bifika,
he's made out of entirely snacks. And he's like, I forget even what he said, but he had some sort of like megalomaniacal, like they clearly got into his brain and like had made him more of what he was, more of his bad self, right? So he's something like, now I'll take over all of the Bugsnax and make all the money and, whatever. And then finally he just sort of explodes into snack foods and falls to the floor as a bunch of separate food items. And it was actually a really cool moment. I thought it was really creepy. And I was like, that particular like mini game there where I was trying to defend him was the hardest of them. All the rest of them were a little easier, and so I was able to save everybody else. And then we just get off the island. There's a little scene on the beach where you kind of talk to each one, and they sort of say, hey, I guess we're going to go on with our lives. And the final moment of the game for me was going back to the editor that sent you on this assignment with Philbo. And he's de-snackified. And sort of telling her that, well, she came and saved us from the island from a volcano eruption, but there were no Bugsnax. The Bugsnax were all a lie. Don't go to that island. It's very boring. No one wants to go there. There were no Bugsnax. They're not real. To try to
should call it Boring Island.
Yeah, take the secret to your grave kind of setup. And that's the ending.
So there's a couple things so if you finish, I didn't learn this till afterwards, but each arc you finish protects your person from getting from dying in the end game.
Okay.
So if you finish each bunch of side quests, so I was bad at the games, but my people were able to, like, through the power of, I don't know, mental health, were like able to kind of beat them back. So like nobody ate Bugsnax in any of my battle games.
Mm-hmm.
No one ate, and no Bugsnax went down anybody's throat. Side note, I did look up Bifika's thing, and if she says there's no point in going back with them, I don't have a life of friends, nobody I can really trust anyway, but Bugsnax, I can trust you to be delicious. So all of these bad endings seemed really dark. I never saw any of these. I thought, like, oh, cool, it's great that they've put these training wheels on these mini games that if you're bad at them, like, your friends will help you fight back. Didn't realize it's because I had finished the side quest. So regardless of me being very bad, and I did say there was one crash, so I had to restart, but didn't make a difference because I'd done all the side quests. It was bad. Everyone got on the boat. Everyone sailed off in the hot air balloon. Apparently all of my dialogue choices on the island where people were like, it's okay, like, we are, like, great and going to start a new life. Like, everyone was really positive. They're like, some bad stuff happened. We think Lizbert and Egabel will see it through because they have a strong relationship. Like, everyone was really optimistic. Get on the boat, go back with Philbo. Same thing about the denial. He decides to run for mayor. He's like, so he becomes the mayor. And then during the credits sequence, you get pictures of everybody having really good lives. And like Cromdo is singing karaoke, and like Bifika is talking on the phone to a friend, and like Shelda has a book that's called like something like I was right, but I was pretty wrong about it, or something like that. And at the end of the credits, the good ending, you get a little piece of extra dialogue, which is a phone call between the editor of your newspaper and a mysterious voice that's like, either they're idiots or they're covering up the truth. Like, either way, like, they've decided to keep the secret. And then they talk in Latin.
Okay.
Did you get this at all?
No, I didn't get that at all.
So then they say in Latin at the end of the call, tu quid edas omne vivum ex Bugsnax.
Okay.
Which apparently translates to, you are what you eat and all life from Bugsnax. So it's implied that the editor might be part of the Grumpinati, and like maybe they're like trying to keep it secret, and that's why she didn't want you going to the island in the first place. And so this call ends, and then a Strabby comes out of your boat and gets on the beach. So it's implied that you've accidentally colonized your city with a Bugsnak.
I kind of love that the good ending ends with like a conspiratorial conversation and like potential doom.
Collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good ending has environmental collapse in it. Yeah, I honestly, playing those end games, I was like, how nice of them to protect all your people from these bugs, because it feels dangerous, but I know that if I keep screwing up, it's okay. And apparently everyone else was having players die left and right.
That's pretty cool, actually. Like I didn't have that hard of a time with the with those mini games, but now I kind of wish I'd had a harder time, because like I appreciated the sort of darkness of this to an extent, and like I kind of would have liked to see more of it. I don't think I'm going to play through it again and like, you know, intentionally throw those mini games just to see all the characters die, but I'm definitely going to YouTube it because I'm very curious. I think what sticks out to me about this though is like I really loved that this game was like willing to go for it in terms of like the like being willing to like take this very silly premise and like look at the inherent, like clearly they didn't start with like a how can we make a dark thing, right? They started with cute Bugsnax, right? And then they kind of worked their way backwards and like, well, there are some troubling implications here. Do we gloss over them? Maybe initially, but then they kind of go for the like they take that like inherent or sort of implied darkness of this world they've created, and they like grapple with it in a real way that like adds to the experience. And I thought it was really, really neat. So I really enjoyed the ending, even if it wasn't like I didn't get a quote unquote good ending. I kind of liked the one that I got, and I thought it was great.
And I'm really happy I got the happy protected ending, because if you play all the side quests, you really get to know the characters. And so I feel like it would have been much worse if they had died having spent so much time trying to help them with their problems. Like they, you know, if you bring people through arcs, there's a payoff, and that's protection. I think that's fair. I'm not sure what the bad ending does for the game. It turns it into horror for me. Like the fact that your characters can die. Mm-hmm. But I guess I played the game, because considering I played through all their quests, like I played the game as almost a character journey. So having them randomly die at the end would have felt really anticlimactic.
I guess so.
Had I not spent, you know, but I spent an extra 4 hours with the characters, so I was more attached to them, and that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Something that I was interested in on the ending is people who said they didn't see it coming. Like maybe you didn't see specifically like violent mini games coming, but to me the fact that the island, that there was a dark side and a bad thing to eating Bugsnax was there the whole time. This specific is much more creative and much more over the top and much weirder than I was expecting, but
yeah, the main thing that did surprise me quite a lot was the visuals of the ending. The like sticky snack hole of the undersnack, and the like over the top like aliens meets food vibe of like the you know what Elizabeth had become under there, the like hideous creature that she had turned into. That was all like legit surprising, and but not in like a like distressing way. It just like put a smile on my face. I was like, they're going here. This is really weird. I love it.
Oh, did you do any of the Floofty side quests? Because that was also super body horror.
No. She's the scientist who wanted to like.
She is the scientist.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I skipped hers entirely.
So her first scientist thing is she's like, I need you to cut my head off, and I'm like, I think that's crazy. You shouldn't cut your head off. And she's like, okay, cool. Well, I can do smaller experiments if you get me some volunteers. And no one, of course, wants to volunteer. And then she's like, okay, cool. Completely transform me. And you realize that every time you feed a different Bugsnax to somebody, they get a different body part unlocked that you can fill. So you keep giving her different types, and eventually you can fill her body. And she completely, like, her whole body is transformed to Bugsnax. And she thinks this is how you regenerate limbs. So she cut her own leg off, and so that you could put a Bugsnak there and it would fill in and fill the stump in. And she's like, Bugsnax can regenerate limbs. This is going to save humanity. But she only can experiment on herself. So you fill her up, and she's like, make sure it's delicious just in case I die during my experiment. And then she goes and lays down in that hut, that like weird gazebo that's not used in the town. She goes to that area, lays down, and has this like giant, like James Bond style saw, like the huge like saws that they used to, and she's gonna cut her head off. And it starts falling, and then her brother rolls up and is like, stop it. Like, just because no one's paying attention to your experiments doesn't mean you have to die. And she's like, I want to see if my head regenerates. And he's like, we can't lose you. I'll read some peer-reviewed journals. Like, I'll do whatever you need. But, like, stop experimenting on yourself.
But I still kind of want to know what would have happened if she'd cut her head off.
Yeah. And so she, the rest of the time, is completely, for me, I thought you had to turn her into one Bugsnak, so I completely filled her up with Flutter Jams. She was just like a toast woman, like completely. And so at the end of the game, like, I think if she'd eaten one more, she would have died. But it's like you can come back, like you get full up, and then you eat one more bug, and then you're dead. So like I filled her in. Had I fed her another bug, I might have killed her.
You know, that might also account for why I had an easier time during the because apart from places where it required me to feed Bugsnax to the characters, I mostly
for the
didn't.
main plot, yeah.
Right. I didn't feed them that much.
Some.
So like a lot of the characters had like a couple of Bugsnak legs but no other limbs. And so that may have given me some extra leeway in those mini games. Like they weren't fully snackified. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you get people, I think probably the most dangerous place to be is if you do 75% of the side quests and then you go to the end game, because then your people have like 5 or 6 bugs on them, but you're not protected.
That's interesting. That hadn't occurred to me until just now.
It's a really odd design choice to me, like that you have to feed them as part of it, but it's putting them at risk until you finish their storyline.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it seems to work though. It's like don't think this is a Anyway, I had a ton of fun with this one. I'm really glad that we played it for the show, and I'm so glad to see a new game from Young Horses after such a very long time. I still love Octodad. I've played it at least twice through, and I have an Octodad plush like right here on my desk attached to my lamp, and I loved Bugsnax probably just as much as Octodad. I actually have to say that, like, I know the song, everyone says this one's catchy. I don't think it holds a candle to Octodad, Nobody Suspects a Thing, the theme from Octodad. And I think the developers knew that because they put the song right on the intro. When you boot up Octodad, it immediately plays the song. Whereas this one, it plays the song by Caro Caro Bonito on the end credits. So I think they knew. I think they knew they had a good song, but it wasn't as good as the original Octodad song.
Oh, but this song has become a super meme. But the thing is, the song is a spoiler, and the song is totally off from the game. Because the song literally says, like, come to the island, it's Bugsnax.
Yeah, I feel like that's like subtle enough that, like, I don't think, unless you were like looking back on it, you wouldn't realize that's a spoiler.
Which makes it so much fun in the credits.
It really is.
Honestly, their marketing team has put that song so far and wide that, like, I think it's fine that it doesn't show up till the end.
I'd really, really like that. And like Caro Caro Bonito is a
Wiggle
good
was going to write the song.
You said who?
I thought that the end of Wiggle's quest was going to be that she writes the Bugsnax song.
Well, her whole musical vibe is pretty different from Caro Caro Bonito.
Agreed. But she does sing a song to get the Dragon Maki to come out, and that is a decision.
Yeah, she was a weird one. fun game. I'm glad that we played it. Any last thoughts to leave us on before we wrap it up?
I will say that if I never have to get another Scoopy banana,
the Scoopy Banoopy.
Smoopy Banoopy. I had to catch like 2 of them for side quests, and oh my god,
those ones are really hard. I mostly just got like kicked around by the Scoopy Banoopy.
Yeah, you can't. You have to collect them whole. You can't have them break into bits.
Oh,
it's very difficult.
That sounds hard. Yeah, there's a lot of those that like the ones that freeze were kind of hard for me to figure out. Because like you'd try to. Sometimes you'd like the easiest thing would be to have like a flaming one hit them or like, shoot a flame ball at them, but often that would catch them on fire, which was its own problem.
Yeah, the tripwire conducts flame and water.
Oh. And
I couldn't figure that out for a long time until I put a tripwire. You have to solve a quest for Snoopty that you have to light a bunch of beacons in town. And so you put the tripwire on and shoot it to the other beacon. And I was like, oh, it conducts fire. I can now catch like 30 different animals.
Yeah, that I don't think I ever learned that. So I'm actually really looking forward to going back and doing the side quests because I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I like puzzles. So.
Yeah, and these are like the sort of like, they're not like logic puzzles exactly. They're just sort of very situational, like, they're puzzle-y, but they're not abstract. They're very like, they're just very, and because everything is sort of like real-time physics enabled, it kind of reminds me, this is not a good comparison, but I'm going to make it anyway. It kind of reminds me of like how Breath of the Wild has puzzles, but like sometimes you can cheese them by just using the physics system in weird ways.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you can just stand in the middle of a bunch of bugs and have them all bum rush you and set you on fire. You run, let the flames get put out, and you run back in and swoop them all up.
Yeah. Like because everything has this sort of like real-time physics enabled chaos to it, like, sometimes unintended consequences are good and interesting. And I really liked that about it.
You can learn more about gastroentomology.
I love that. If you stuck it out to the end of the spoiler break, thanks for listening, and we hope you catch us next week on another episode of The Short Game.
Kind of bargain, kind of snack. Try to catch 'em in your trap. Feed somebody and you'll see we are whatever we eat. Find 'em hiding in the sand, tearing up a ketchup patch. Come to Snack-Tooth Island and discover it's Bugsnax. I heard that somewhere far off in the ocean there lies an island where the creatures roam. A famed explorer tells me they're delicious, and yet they're hitherto unknown.